Alex and Gregor are colleagues who head to Henrik's, Gregor's friend, forest cabin for a long weekend of hunting. For Alex, a typical city dweller, this will be his first hunt, and initially, he's unsure if it's for him. However, he gets drawn into it and even finds a certain aesthetic in taking the life of another creature. One day, the men discover that the forest around them seems eerily empty, and they decide that if that's the case, they might as well hunt each other. The novella Hunters on the White Field by Swedish author Mats Vegas was published back in 1986. It didn't gain much attention at the time, but it has found its moment now, in an era where everyone seems to be talking about toxic masculinity. Indeed, what could be sharper and more relevant than a story about three men who head out into nature, hug in the grass, dance to Mark Almond's Tainted Love, shoot ducks and deers, and then start shooting at each other? Well, what did you expect? They're men, after all. The adaptation of Hunters on a White Field and the screenplay were handled by a woman, Sarah Gyllenstierna, who in the 90s worked as an assistant to Spike Lee, one of the world's most famous black directors. She also contributed to several films by other directors that tackled social issues, such as Mario Van Peebles' drama Panther and the comedy To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, memorable for featuring Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo as drag queens. In 2021, Gyllenstierna produced the Netflix documentary series Amend, The Fight for America, in which Will Smith explained in detail why discrimination is bad and equal rights are good. In this context, a story about toxic masculinity, set in her native Sweden, seems like a logical next step for Gyllenstierna. To be honest, her mentor Spike Lee was also a master of heightening drama and glossing over blatant exaggerations with a pseudo-documentary style, but at least he understood what he was talking about. Gyllenstierna, on the other hand, seems to have only seen men on TV and knows about them only what radical feminists say. As a result, she throws everything into the mix: latent homosexuality, a penchant for violence, a need to dominate, and either an unwillingness or inability to control their egos. After trying deer liver for the first time, Alex goes off to vomit and in the process regurgitates what looks like a fat caterpillar or worm, which he puts in a jar and hides under the bed. Sorry, but we have no other metaphors for you here. Hunters on a White Field is one of those cases where the creators try to say too much at once, but in the process, they drown in information, lose focus, and dilute the main message. The transition to the hunt against each other, which is the most dramatic plot twist, happens without sufficient psychological build-up, relying instead on heavy-handed symbolism. As a result, the final act of the film feels weak and unconvincing, and its last scene borders on the ridiculous. It's a shame because, technically, Hunters on a White Field has not so many flaws. Gyllenstierna manages to create a visually stunning depiction of the damp forests and works well with three talented, charismatic actors. As for the idea that all your so-called civilization is a social construct, and that men have always been and will remain savages, well, as they say, no comment.